I think the one thing that's on my mind is, can we ensure that the farmers meet that ask when the time comes?
It needs time. The
Oh,
thing
yeah.
is, what comes first, right?
Yeah,
He's not
what-
going to take on the risk.
It's a root cause analysis. What we're doing now is, what's the first step?
And also, we don't want to harm the consumer.
Yeah.
So, you know, you mentioned the United Arab Emirates is open to trade, is open. So we're not going to do, which happened before, you know, farmers ask that in the season, tomato and cucumber, for example, hey, let's not import. And if you do that, immediately prices spike, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I believe that if you put local on the shelf and keep the cheap import, just label it appropriately, correctly, put what country it's from, people are going to select local at a more expensive price. This is the premise that I'm going for. So we don't want to make a product more expensive for people who are trying to buy the most affordable. We are saying that there is enough spending power in the country so that local can get that premiumized price point that local deserves for utilizing our precious resources and to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. So that's one point. At Emirates Bio Farm, I think, you know, we built trust because we are open 7 days a week. What farm, what commercial farm allows you to come any day of the week and from sun up to sundown, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and walk around? And you're going to see birds and insects and pests and so on, and harvesters. And you see production. So I think that gave people, you know, it gives people trust. What others are doing to get that trust, and this is unfortunate, we have a lot of packaging in the local now. Everybody that goes direct, whether you're organic or conventional, wants to stick that label to give that, you know, traceability. Hey, this came from a pure harvest. This came from an Armella or a Botanica or, you know, sophisticated farmers are sticking their label, elite, and so on. Silal is doing that for smallholders. Packaging as Silal. And they have invested incredibly in the supply chain. And, you know, we want to support all of this. We are happy to support that. One of the Carrefour, you know, I want to give a shout out to Carrefour for this season. They gave the Choose Better campaign.
Oh, cool.
Which was super focused on local.
Explain, how does that campaign work?
Well, they're looking at choosing better in terms of nutrition and sustainability. And because of sustainability and nutrition, that led to, hey, let's support local more. Because sustainability-wise, air miles, and nutrition-wise, this is our focus. So for the first time ever, you know how when you walk into a hypermarket, there's the special deals section? Which is usually on the other side of the fresh.
Exactly.
For the first time ever, you walk in there and it's
first thing
vegetables.
Near
the electronics section.
No
vegetables,
way.
Berries, and they had videos of farmers. They have farmer meetups. And they are pushing for localized. So that was excellent. And I think next season, we're going to see incredible. Spinneys did a farmer's market as well. Another project we did with Mirdif branch as a branch was getting organic package free. If you go to a Mirdif Carrefour, we have a whole stand. And the idea is we deliver in our boxes with the Emirates Bio Farm organic label on it. So that gives you the trust when the box itself goes on the shelf, not just the product. So it's package free, but it's inside my box. So the traceability is there.
And you're taking those boxes back to recycle.
It's my merchandiser.
Amazing.
So I put the product, I take it back, I control it. And now they want to roll it out to all their other stores.
I'd love to do a case study on all of these retail experiences and how that's moving our food system into a more mature, because I believe that will serve the rest of the region in how we can promote local producers at the retail. Now, not every country in the region is like the UAE, and some are very similar. Some have their own markets dynamics. But what SOMA is trying to do is to capture those significant learnings from the efforts of the private sector, from the efforts of the government, and from innovators like yourselves and the others. Because this isn't, I mean, you were the one who, what was it, 2 days ago, WhatsApped me and was like, I love how I'm learning that we've been doing some of the things we're trying now in the 70s. And I have my own experience because when I was on the board of the International Center of Biosaline Agriculture, I remember people doing research on net housing versus greenhousing and saying, well, you know, this is more effective. And I was puzzled because as a young boy, not even 5 years old, I was in our backyard in Sharjah planting crops under net houses. It was the only way my father did agriculture because it managed your sun and your microclimate. So I want to stop us sort of circling back and reinventing the wheel and sort of creating better documentation and even the storytelling behind that. So SOMA really wants to get involved with that. And I really want to take up the mantle on how we can solve the problem or the challenge of the food fraud. And maybe what we need to do is bring the stakeholders together under a couple, you know, programs that we can run, even pro bono, if it has to be started that way, so that we can get the community together. I know you and I are constantly passionately talking about it, but I think what we need to do is carve out some time to make sure we get that, and we can work out, let's get some case studies, let's cycle that up into resources for the market. And we can co-brand and do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that could be done that is difficult, but if it's achieved, if we put the data down somewhere. So I'm saying I said, in my opinion, so and so. But if there's data,
it's what SOMA was created to solve. You know this from Greg, my co-founder, and I. Like, we want to do that. So maybe we have to revisit that as well. And say, let's go to all the operators. Let's say, okay, this first attempt is to close out and bring all of this information for the good of the system. And let's see if we can put some information down for the food system that becomes key resource for us to better understand each other, for retailers to know what's happening in a harvest cycle every year, for consumers to see that we're self-organizing, right? And then we'll have something that we can bring also to the Ministry of Economy and their food cluster program. I think there is a lot to be done, and I think that's our dilemma, is that we're always tackling so many different things at the same time. And that's really why this conversation was important, because I wanted to get down to the one thing that we could focus on. So my next question then is, if we're doing that, how can we bring more players to the game? How can we bring, and we have WhatsApp groups and we have a lot of very passionate food people, but I think there's a self-organizing that we have to get into, and a sort of agreement, maybe not a code of conduct, but a sort of like memorandum of understanding between the players and the producers in the market to say we all want to contribute data in an open fashion. It's something that we've been thinking about, and can we have an open data architecture that's an agreement between producers to say it's important, it's all in one place. And I know that would help both local and federal government. In a way, I know the statistics people would appreciate that as well, but some fidelity in that data.
No, definitely. There are some, some work or data that would benefit so many people across the industry, but it's like, should one person fund it? Who's going to fund it?
Yeah, there's always this challenge of who's going to put the funding in.
And, you mentioned, so I think this is the whole premise of the food cluster under the Ministry of Economy. Can you bring the players together to solve for? And just to, add in my work at the World Economic Forum's Food Innovation Hub.
Tell us more about that.
Because it ties in here. The Food Innovation Hub is looking at sourcing innovation, supporting it incubate, and then helping it scale. So towards the last pillar, helping it scale, we are saying, yes, there are investment ecosystems, let's say, but there are some core challenges that we are mentioning now. And we need the current operators to come in and tell us, hey, what's your policy recommendation? What are the challenges you're facing? So that there is a path to success for an innovator coming in. Because you don't want an innovator to come in, get incubated, set up, and then fail. So what is your challenge? And this is the things that we talk about. And we came up with a producers collective with SOMA and a few of the largest producers, where we need to activate that towards the data analysis and capture. I know some of them are working towards that. And, I think this is our work for the future coming up. And it's a very important aspect of it. Now, also on our board as Food Innovation Hub or leadership committee, we have some of the largest caterers in the country, Abu Dhabi National Hotels.
Yes, yeah.
We have Majid Al Qassimi's Carrefour retail. Even this is C-suite, so the chief operating officer, the chief executive officer. And then we have some of the largest processors with IFCO.
Yeah.
And we have some of the largest global players in the agribusiness, Al-Dahra. So when you have this kind of collective and the government's in the room, it's a completely different conversation, because we're not just looking at the farmers' problems, and the government's not the one that's in between.
Yes.
It's going direct to retail, direct to caterer, and they're thinking, okay, what are the quick wins? What are the medium term? What is the long term? What are the things that, hey, let's do a special project to take your waste and do a special product and see if people want local pickles that's coming out of your waste. I'm a caterer. I can process that into soup. Great. What is the medium term where I can commit to offtake agreements? What are you able to do for me in terms of consolidating you guys so that I have consistency in what I need? And then what are the long term where it's like, can we invest to support you in improving your irrigation systems? I've seen actually retailers talking about that.
Oh, wow.
So looking at their sustainability objectives and tying it back into their farmers themselves. In terms of policy and regulation, ICV, subsidy structures, things that need quite some time and quite some effort in terms of policy and regulation. So we're trying to have these conversations across making sure everybody's in the room as well, from government to retail to caterers and processors and farmers, logistics. So I think this is all excellent. What's happening today, the movement that's happening today, and the announcement of the National Agriculture Center,
right? Yes,
at the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment's event last month, was, I think, to address a lot of these things. If you look at the presentations they did or their objectives, they even mention at some of it the country of origin issue.
Right. Okay. Good.
So now it's being put out there. It's a goal. And then it'll hopefully go down into the local municipality, because ultimately on the shelf space, it's going to end up being the local authorities.
So yeah, I think we didn't talk about that specifically, but people that may not understand this in the UAE is you have a federal government and then you have a local emirate government.
Sure.
And certain roles sit at the federal level, certain roles sit at the local level, and the distribution of the two and the trickle down of responsibility is always where, the details matter.
And sometimes when you say a product is locally produced and a product is imported, if you have a complaint about one of them, each one goes to a different
authority, exactly,
even though it's all under fresh.
Yes, exactly. Okay. They sit in the same retail space.
They sit in the same retail. So if you have an import that is labeled as local, sometimes it ends up in a gray area where when when somebody raises a flag, it goes to the local or it goes to the import, and they say, no, that's local. It has to go to the local. The local looks at it and says, that's not a farm. I know it says whatever farm, LLC, but this is a trading company based out of wherever. So this isn't under my jurisdiction. And then it just falls through the cracks. So you have that. There's a lot of issues.
And the reason we set SOMA up, and this is, always, it's the sort of grand picture, right? Orchestrating a lot of this policy and regulation. It's even when you say, that many sectors were siloed or are siloed, the same happens in being able to see, like you said, local grown is in this department, imports are in that department, and they may not be communicating, but they both impact the same part of the retail experience and the consumer. Is we often talk about mapping all of this out, and it's like, this is where we like to live. It's complexity, right? And the food system is very complex. Being able to help people see that large picture and navigate it and cover gaps or challenges in policy, regulation, market dynamics, even opportunities for business, is where we want to be and where we want to be solving problems. And I think that's why you and I are always in discussion, because with your work with World Economic Forum, you also have that systems view. Now, that system sits within a bigger system, the GCC, and then the wider Middle East, and then the MENA region. But here in this market, I think there's a lot of stringing these different points together and being able to present that in a cohesive manner that allows policymakers to make a difference in the way they're deciding, rolling out decisions, and ultimately regulation and its actual practice. The big thing with a country moving as fast as the UAE is that certain things move really fast and certain things have to move at the pace of harvest to harvest, right? And as much as we'd like to be doing things very fast, like technology and hydroponic, farmers live harvest to harvest. And there's that matching of pace that's also a challenge. What I'd ask is, what have you seen in how many years you've been operating are the biggest wins the UAE's made that the rest of the world can learn from? And we always talk about the UAE as being a lab. You know, where you can test things. It may not be the most competitive market, or maybe not the right market to get scale in, but we have the most proactive policy and most dynamic government, and enough geographical spaces that demonstrate the harshest environments for growing. So you've been operating, you're also been at the policy level. What do you think have been the biggest sort of wins that we can demonstrate to the wider region, globe, about what we should be doing about food, agriculture, and policy?
I think you mentioned quite accurately that the UAE's impact in the agriculture field in terms of population size or production is limited currently, right? But it has an outsized impact as a place that's attracting entrepreneurs, that is willing to take risk, willing to invest. You see the Aqua Cluster in Abu Dhabi, immediately taking decisive action in AI and alternative proteins and so on. You have the Mohammed bin Zayed water initiative and the challenge launched. You have the Food Tech Challenge. The work that SRTIP is doing in Sharjah and Shirah. So you are seeing really, and not only is it a single incubation,
it's
every emirate, sometimes even in municipalities and ministry, and there's a lot of testing, there's a lot that happened already. Now, one of the challenges in our region in general, first of all, we're not talking publicly about failure. Maybe this is not being documented, what worked and what didn't work. I think we are 10 years ahead from a lot of places. We've tried so many things. There's so much innovation happening, so many innovative farmers. So what we are trying to do, and I think what SOMA is trying to do, is to consolidate this knowledge.
That's exactly it.
To become a source where people can come and we say, yes, this has been tried. This was the challenge. This underground greenhouse was tried. This floating farm was tried. Somebody did try to farm asparagus. Somebody did try to farm ostriches. Somebody is doing, we have innovators like Rami and Dibabe, who tried and
East
found
Coast shellfish.
Oysters, right? Camel milk processing into new products.
I think that's still such an underrated product. And I think, again, all credit to the leadership in the country for picking what are culturally significant food sources and scaling them to large commercial exportable products. And I still think the local community, our own population here, aren't consuming enough of those products. They naturally fit our environment. They've been elevated to a very high quality, and ultimately they prove to be more nutritionally significant. When people were talking about superfoods, but camel milk, there's a lot of people that can deal with camel milk better than traditional dairy from cows. There's also, dates. And something that I've been experiencing, I am consuming an inordinate amount of dates now. And it is doing my body a lot of good.
But did we invent date balls at coffee shops?
That's
a demand that is across the world, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Shouldn't we have done that?
Yeah, and
so we need to innovate in our products.
Yeah,
because it doesn't stop just at producing it. You need to make sure the demand is there, and other cultures are. Other farming, we didn't all suddenly decide to put avocado on toast. Somebody designed, worked on that, marketed it. And if you look at the history of food, what we're eating now in terms of fish, salmon and sea bass, again, is an effort, a concentrated effort, a PR effort.
A lot of examples I have.
Yes, there's a history of food that is, you find that your diet wasn't based on only your region. Tomatoes didn't come to the region until like 1890, so 100. But you'd think in the Levant, like we were born with tomato. No, this came from South Africa to Europe, and then came to us, and it was at one point an exotic fruit, right? So now is the time for us to use our influence as the global city of Abu Dhabi, the global city of Dubai, and our footprint in the world, to make sure that our local farmers' products are demanded, are innovated with, and ultimately get them on shelves, get them on menus, and ensure that we're not getting people their farm and then they need to figure out how to sell it. They're not going to become chefs.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Right? So even weird combinations. I'd love to have a Dubai breakfast or UAE breakfast that is very strange, which is like local eggs and oysters cooked in a way. They do that in Asia.
Okay.
So it's a very protein heavy breakfast. But Dubai chocolate should have been camel milk, right? Imagine Dubai chocolate had a country of origin and an ingredient.
As much as I don't eat that chocolate, but love chocolate, I think it's a strong proof point for an exportable food. I mean, to the point where the Germans, and I'm half German, but the Germans are looking out for this, and they're typically not food.
It's doing incredibly well in Europe.
Yeah.
It's across everything. Now imagine the main ingredient in it. Like it carried a local product or a UAE date.
Well,
like,
I tell you.
Hey, you can't have an original Dubai chocolate without this ingredient. That's how you create demand.
Interestingly, we were looking at some research. The Dubai chocolate actually put a dent in the global pistachio supply. Yeah. That's how, I mean, it's pistachio heavy, but when a product commands that kind of market pull, that's something. I mean, this may be a hot take.
I forgot the question, by the way.
It's okay. We're in a good space here because I think, food and marketing and, I think the question was, where have you seen, the UAE do some incredible things? This is sort of lighthouse.
So I think I talked about opportunities.
No, and you're not wrong. I think the UAE is a lighthouse to the rest of the world from a food perspective. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of, restaurants growing here, local concepts.
And now our concepts are going abroad versus getting franchises.
There you go. So let me readdress that in the context of food production. Is I believe we have exportable opportunity.
Yes.
And I'll be the first to say, and I'll say it all the time, I am not a fan of Majdoul dates. Do not ever give me Majdoul dates. I will have, of the 110 plus varieties we have in the UAE, I don't need Majdoul.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And we have our regulars, right? Yeah. But there are so many varietals that are super interesting. We need to get those exported, and not exported in the sort of traditional way, but you just said it, like a protein ball or a date ball. Like there are so many.
Our coffee culture and coffee shops,
oh my goodness,
needs to, like, hey, with this bean, you go with khalas.
Yeah,
and everybody
exactly.
goes
Pairing.
with liwa khalas or
Yes,
whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah, khanezi or whatever.
Yeah. And then you push that, right? You push that narrative. Just like somebody pushed on us, like, hey, you have soda with this, or you have this is the pairing.
I'll tell you an interesting thing is, you know, my kids love salmon sushi.
Yeah.
But that isn't a traditional Japanese fish.
Ah, yeah.
Salmon sushi was marketed by the salmon farmers.
Sure. Of
right?
course.
The same. Why do we all have the banana? Well, if I say banana, there's a mental picture, right? Why are you having that banana? Here we have the small bananas from India and the Northern Emirates grow them. But why does everybody get that big, long, yellow, Cavendish? Exactly.
Cavendish.
That's because it's the best for logistics.
Yeah.
It can be matured in transit, right? Somebody's put that forward as the banana to have. I think we've got a lot of good local production.
Yeah.
I think if our producers really want scale on our, let's call it local champions or our local identified foods, those need export markets.
Yeah.
Right? You said it earlier on. We're all here fighting each other for a small piece of the pie. And as much as it sounds
it's small because we are only competing, like this local product competes with this local product.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Which is unfortunate, right? Yeah. There are people that went out of that. So like a Pure Harvest competes with an import because of the quality that they did. But we're looking across the entire food sector, and I'm looking at points that raise all ships, right?
Yes,
you want to raise the waters for everybody. So if I'm looking at my own interest, I'll just be talking about organic and how we need more organic on shelves. If you're talking about premium, then you're going to be talking about, you know, the replacing high quality tomatoes and so on. But we're looking at the points that can support everybody, and that is where, you know, making sure the grown in UAE, plant Emirates, all of that is carried forward, protected. Nobody can label if it's not
this is
true.
Where this like geographical indicator is important. Yeah.
So you asked me, you know, what are the things that the UAE does well? I'm going to talk about the opportunities and what they did well. Yeah. ICBA is incredible.
That's the International Center of Biosaline Agriculture.
Yeah, coming up now. So I grew quinoa from them in like 2017.
Some context. The center grew and was developing quinoa as a product, or rather as a grain that could be grown here.
We eat a lot of rice.
Yeah.
We import all of it.
Yeah.
We have zero intention to grow the rice here.
Yeah.
And in terms of nutrition, obesity, diabetes.
Yeah.
White rice is not, you know,
it unfortunately supplies.
And it's a huge part of our diet. So if you can find an alternative grain, and I'll give you an example from Emirates Bio Farm, even with wheat. So let's say we're trying to replace wheat with millets.
Yes.
And quinoa, because quinoa kind of, you can make a rice dish with quinoa as a side. Exactly. I know it's not exactly the same, but nutrition-wise, it's better. And then water-wise, you're talking about 10% the water need. Of course, it's still high.
To grow. 10% to grow,
It's still high.
Yeah.
But it's able to grow in more saline water. It's able to grow in hotter environments. It is productive, very productive per square meter. And now you have people like Salal building the processing capability.
Amazing.
So when I did it...
you did it all in-house.
Yeah, and I had a joke, which was step 1, grow quinoa. Step 2, ? Step 3, profit.
Yeah.
And I keep saying I'm stuck at step 2 for the past, 5-7 years.
And you're still growing it?
I grow it for our own restaurant.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. But how do you commercialize it, right?
Yeah.
So the processing of it is difficult. Our chefs hate it. You have to wash it a million times. There's this bitter taste to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you need machinery, you need scale, you need that, the grain lever of other countries where you harvest and you drop it. The guy checks the quality, gives you a spot price, and he has demand for the product.
Yeah.
So that is slowly happening. So the UAE is doing well identifying alternatives.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned with the oysters, I think that is very unique with identifying different ways to consume camel milk and so on. We have an incredible hospitality industry.
That's true.
Very creative.
Absolutely.
Tourism, we have huge opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
We can influence menus. I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the opportunity is there for us to capture. And we have government, they are very motivated.
Yeah.
And the finances are there for the projects. So you're getting a lot of innovation coming up fast. I'm really excited about integrated farms doing tilapia.
Right. Okay.
Right. So we're already
That's fish for those who don't know. Yeah.
We're all collecting water to irrigate.
Yes.
So now they're going tilapia and then irrigating.
Yes.
So increasing the efficiency, the productivity of the same amount of water, technically.
There's a bit of a pattern here where I think because of the challenge with the environmental conditions, having a diversified production system in a single farm.
Resilient too.
So Quinoa is about resilience.
Yeah. Tilapia grows in salt water, fresh water, doesn't need climate control in the water.
Yeah.
So the least amount of inputs. But why do we look at salmon and sea bass? Because we look at consumption, we look at price.
Yeah, we're looking at premium.
Tilapia is like the chicken of the seafood world.
Yes,
and even people are embarrassed to say tilapia because it's considered a cheaper fish. It's so hardy and available that they would say whitefish.
Right.
On processed, whatever your fish sticks is.
Yeah.
That's most likely tilapia.
Okay.
So can we change using our chefs, our strength to say, no, look, the tilapia that we grow here, we feed it Zola and we feed it moringa and we're doing black soldier fly and it's premium, and create that story around it, and it's local and it didn't travel, create a premium demand and push the product and get our chefs to get creative with it.
Yeah.
With our date jam, let's say.
Yes,
some kind of recipe that makes it fully local.
I mean, and I'm
not talking about local culturally.
Yeah,
so a lot of people say, I'm trying to localize a menu.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not talking about cultural. That is, sure, we can do that. And maybe we can get innovative with some traditional recipes. But I'm talking about localizing it in terms of ingredients.
I think seeing all of these opportunities, and again, it's an exciting time for where we are in the UAE food system. Being able to identify those key action points that you and I have just worked through. I mean, we did the tour of our whole food system, and I can say you'll be back. We'll be doing more of these.
There's a lot more.
Yeah, you're going to be the reoccurring guest that is like, okay, we're going back into the food system deep. But I think with the challenges that we've identified, I think one, sharing information in case studies. It's something that I'm passionate about because I do know we have a lot of experience, and it's just being lost because of cycles. Yes. Second, I think being able to create some sort of education platform, and I don't want to not like a product, but the idea of bringing people together and saying, hey, you need to know that this is what our season looks like as a retailer. This is when you can expect things, and even to produce materials that people can have. So we can raise the bar of an understanding for what's happening in the production. And then ultimately, I think stringing and stitching all of these different initiatives together so that we're not getting overlaps and reinventing the wheel, I think is important. And I think that's where both 3Y and SOMA MATER are going to have a lot of work to do together. I know that you've given us a lot of your time. I wanted to thank you. Always a pleasure. We will make sure we have you on the regular so we can go deeper and go more directly into some of the work. Maybe a last thought from you before we close out. Is there anything that you're excited about moving forward?
Yeah, I think giving me this platform, you're talking about next steps. This alone is a step.
Okay.
So it's, what we're saying is, hopefully going to become part of discourse. And you mentioned education on higher level, and these are some of the gaps that we have. We have agriculture engineers and producers and people who are specialists in their sector. But in terms of education on food policy and food systems and master's programs in our current environment, we need to develop that.
Yeah.
And that is something we're looking forward to do at the Food Innovation Hub.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to come back and talk about these things. I think this is a very important tool. And I look forward to hearing your guests come on. I look forward to listening to the next episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited. I'm hopeful. There are challenges, and it's normal. All food systems around the world are facing significant challenges.
Yeah.
In the UAE, we are fortunate to have so much support from government across all pillars trying to solve for this. So it's on us to capture this moment and share the challenges openly so that, you know, efforts go in the right direction and then we get some results and I can go back to farming.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. There's definitely a lot for us to do, but Yazen Al Kodmani, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And for all of the experience and the knowledge you've shared with us today. To everybody at home who's watching this or listening to the podcast, we are SOMA MATER. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I'd ask you, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel to see the full long form of this show, please do. Otherwise, you can find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. Give us a follow, follow our content. We want to share more about the food systems and sustainability in the Middle East and North Africa, and we'll see you there. Thank you for your time.